All right, if I may just have a few comments here about the preseason game. Always looking at the effort of each individual player. I think that's important. That's something that we stress every single day in practice. And you have to be able to translate that to the game. And we're going to be as good as our conditioning level is, as well as our technique. And then also looking at technique at each position. You know, the stuff we're drilling every day, can you translate that to the game? And a lot of times a young player it won't happen for them, you know, as a rookie for the first time in terms of their technique that we've been drilling every single time. And you saw that with some of the rookies. You know, the game sped up. You know, they went back to their old habits. And that certainly is true for a lot of young players. And then looking at our tackling, obviously the first time we had a tackling, game, and the first time we're in that environment, and you really can't do it. And, you know, you guys see us out here tackling each other on those mats and stuff, but, you know, and the tackling was we just too high. You know, we're just tackling too high. So you saw some of those, what we call hidden yards, where the runner's going forward, creating a favorable down and distance for the offense, and we have to do a better job of knocking that back. And it's just really technique, and having 7+ to the ball. So we'll work on that this week, and that's an important part of it. You know, and then we'll just keep hammering the rock. You know, we only got one takeaway. You know, it's not that's not good enough for us, and we'll just keep hammering the rock there. And we had some misstops there. We had a couple that were right there, and we just got to work on catching the ball and doing a great job of seeing that in. So. Overall, I thought, you know, situationally for us, you know, third down in the first half was solid for us. You know, I think we won 4 of them out of 6. That was solid. And we had a backed up situation. I think it was in the second quarter, 2nd and 14. We need to keep them down there. It's for points for our offense. And that was an important part. We let them out of there, got out of downs in the second one there. So that was about it. But that's really it for the game for me. And I'll open up for questions. Thank you.
Calvin Watkins, Dallas Morning News. When you talk about the tackling, is that more drills out here in practice, or just we got to get another game to get this fixed?
Yeah, I think it's both. I think it's both. I really do. And it's just, you know, getting your pads back down, you know, because we're in a thud period. You know, we're thudding up high. We can't go low. You know, so we're a low tackling group. And so to be able to do that, you have to do drill work, but you got to get game experience too.
Some of the young guys, did you like the effort? It was just more about the execution when you talk about some of your young guys?
Yeah, like in the fourth quarter, in that time when you have those guys in their third and fourth quarter, it's all gap integrity. It's guys executing their technique, you know, in terms of how to take on blocks, so you don't get washed by, and how you shed a block, you know, and then how you come off of that to make a good tackle to knock them back. So it's all basic fundamentals. We played very basic, and we're going to continue to do that. We want to see guys play. Want to be able to evaluate the skill sets that we have. Can they play and do the things we're asking them to do? And that's what we're going to do.
Clarence Hill, Dallas Cowboys. As a former first-round pick, obviously Mazi gets a lot of our attention, you know. And can you just talk about what you saw from him, how he's playing, and certainly Jay Toyer? Are they traditional one techniques, or how are you using those guys, and what are you getting from Mazi?
Yeah, Mazi, we're still in the evaluation process with all those D tackles. And we're looking at those guys with a close eye. And it's important that they play the style that we, you know, covet. And that's get off on the football and penetrate, play on the other side of the line of scrimmage, and then being able to shed blocks and make plays. But we are attack front, and it's important that, you know, he does that right and does that well. This is his first time in the system, you know, as a lot of guys. So we're all learning as we go through the process here of how to play that way. And, you know, he's doing a good job in the drills and all those things. But, again, we just got to keep evaluating that process. And we're all in a competition right now. You know, nothing's set in stone. Competition for playing time, competition for the roster. And we want it that way, you know, so guys are competing.
Attack front, does that suit his skills? Because he's never done that before. Does that suit, you know, what he does best?
I do think it does. I think his skill set, you know, can do either. You know, and I really think that he will be a good attack front guy.
Todd Archer with ESPN. Do you have a level of concern with your cornerback situation, given the health, not knowing when Diggs, Revel, they'll play?
Yeah, I think that anybody would have a level of concern. You have guys that are starting, you know, that are all pro players, Pro Bowl players. You know, a guy that's out like that is always a concern, you know, when you're missing a piece like that. You know, because you got to move people around, and then there's competition behind. Last time I was, I talked about the competition behind him, which is great, but when you have that level of a starter out, you're always concerned about it.
What's your thought on what you've seen from the Blues and Wamus and Rochelles and all those guys?
Yeah, just really about, those guys that are still in the evaluation process. Those guys are competing. They're working hard. I really don't have much more comment than that. That's where they are, and that's what we're looking at. And we have 2 really good pads practices coming up, and we're excited about those as we move forward.
John Michaud with The Athletic. What was your initial impressions of Maris Leopold, and then what have you thought about him up to this point now being around?
Yeah, I'm excited about how he's changed his body and how he's really starting to move better. So he lost a lot of weight, trimmed up, leaned up, and he's really moving efficiently. The biggest jump that he's going to make is refinement of detail. That's going to be the biggest thing for him, and that's his alignment and assignment and getting things down where his eyes are. And he'll even play faster than what he does right now. So he's a work in progress, but he's made some good jumps here since the springtime.
What did you think of him specifically on Saturday?
I already knew this about him. I like his hitting ability. Some guys have innate ability to create leverage and power and strike, and he's one of those guys. And you saw that on a couple plays. But he has a really good ability to do that. So that was the most impressive thing to me about him.
Joe Hoyt, Dallas Morning News. Maybe a simple question, but in an attack front, how much responsibility goes on linebackers to really just sift through and kind of read?
Yeah, it's everybody, right? And it's everybody. So the D-line plays a certain way. They're going to play on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Well, we understand the plays that people are going to run against us, so the linebackers have to be tied in with that. You can't have penetrating D-line and then lateral linebackers. That doesn't work. And then the corners and the safeties have to play into that too. It's teamwork, team defense, and everybody's tied into it. It's in the run game, everybody's tied into it, and then in the pass game, it's rush and cover and rush. They're both tied together too. So we're just trying to give those guys another tick to get home in the pass game, and those guys are rushing, and we're going to create situations, one-on-one matchups to slow, to quicken that clock up for the quarterback.
And as you're trying to find who the nickel corner is going to be, because this I know Deron Bland's an option too, but Zion Childress got some reps with the ones last week, played well, I thought, in the game. What have you seen from Zion?
Keemon and Zion have done a nice job in there. They're learning that position. That is an important position for us. We've had some good ones in the past, and those guys are working real hard to get there. And of course, we've had Duran in there as well. So big-time competition in there. We'll keep evaluating those guys. And, you have to be quick when you play in there. And you also have to be stout because you're, asked to play a lot of inner gaps like the B gap, the A gap, all those different gaps that you have, C gap in the run game. So it's important that those guys are stout, in their tackling ability, but also have the ability to be quick and cover, in that seam flat area.
Tommy Yarsh, DallasCowboys.com. I know he only had 10 or so snaps Saturday, but Donovan Ezraku, what's been your evaluation of him up to this point now that he's had 2 really instances of playing another team?
Yeah, I think he falls into the rookie category. Love his talent, love his work ethic. He's a grinder. And when you get into that first game, a lot of times, things start to speed up a little bit. Your technique isn't as good as it was in practice, and that's for all the rookies and all the young players. So this is a great experience for him, and it's happened to the best of them, So he's, and he had a good solid game. I'm not saying that, but he's just he'll keep improving. This would be the first game to the second game is going to be a big improvement for him.
Circling back to Izzy Mukwamba really quickly, can you just talk about the benefit of having a guy his size that also shows versatility on the outside as well as the nickel? Yeah,
that was a great play he made. The interception that he had was awesome, and the ability to cover tight ends, cover corners, and cover in the slot. That's a unique skill set. And then also being able to play the run a little bit too. So he's been doing good in there. He's been our Swiss Army knife. We've been moving him all around and, working to find a place for him in terms of, what fits him best, what's his skill set works at for him and for us. So I'm excited about him.
Garrett Podell, CBS Sports. Matt, what have you seen from Sam Williams back off the knee injuries, been aggressive in practice? What have you thought of him so far? Yeah,
he's been grinding and working, man. I love his toughness. His movement skill is all the way back, so he's back, in the fold there. So He's a very versatile piece. You know, move him inside, move him outside. But I love his power and his strength. You know, in the run game and also the pass rush. So he's exciting he's an exciting player for me.
What about it, like in terms of his inside rush ability going in?
Just his length and quickness in there. You know, we have a lot of guys that can flex in and out, so we're excited about those combinations. But he's certainly one of those guys. But he has power and length to be able to play in there with those guys.
Nick Harris, four-star Telegram. You have a lot of talented defensive ends in that room. How has that competition just overall been here at training camp? Is it the best group of ends you've had in your career?
Yeah, I've had some good tackles in the past. I've had a couple good ends, but not this many. So it's been a pleasure to work with those guys because they're really a tight group. The camaraderie in the room has been great. They're want to learn, and, the system and learning it better, and they grind out there in the practice field. So they have everything they need to really play at the level we need them to play at. So I'm excited for that group too.
When you start looking at Philly, is it after preseason or do you do some initial viewing? What's your process there?
Yeah, 8 months ago, I already started.
Go to Babe and then finish with Christy.
Babe Loffenberg, 105.3 The Fan, Cowboys Radio Network. Suppose you see these guys out there, especially obviously the young guys. You think you got a handle, you think and then they play. Some of them take a step back. I
Yep.
want to ask you who those guys were. But who were the guys that all of a sudden jumped back and gave you a little more than I thought?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to make comments on particular players, but I will say this, that, there's several guys that did that. But again, it's got to be a consistent performance. If you did play well, let's give another performance here in the next 2 days in practice and let's show up in the next game. Because we really believe that, competition throughout the roster is a good thing for everybody. And we're going to continue that. You'll see different combinations out there, different people lined up at different spots to create that competition, and it's real. Because guys are stepping up, younger players are stepping up. It's a competitive roster, and we have to set that competition out there on the practice field, and we'll set it up in the game too.
How about one of them?
Babe Loffenberg. Yeah.
Oh, get in line.
Yeah, that's right.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio on 105.3 The Fan. Elijah Clark left the game in the fourth quarter with one of the team doctors. Is he going to be okay? Do you expect that you'll have him this week? I know it's a big week for two.
Yeah, I don't know yet. I don't know. I think we'll get the medical tomorrow. We'll see where he is. Hopefully he's out there for practice. Again, there's the time element here. Wait and see, but hopefully he's good to go.